How many seconds?
We're live.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for Workbank ThinkTank's Halloween Special. You can see naman, I made some preparations today, but that's also because we have a party happening after this e-party. My name, by the way, is Tanya, and I'm a Talent Development Officer of Workbank, the job site that lets you job hunt with benefits. To know more about Workbank, please watch this. Please regularly visit workbank.com for the freshest jobs that are available out there. You can also check out the website for upcoming trainings and job hunting and career tips. Wherever you are in your career, Workbank is here to support you every step of the way. For now, let's get on with the show. Our topic for today is ghosting. Well, ghosting in recruitment and hiring process. So not really the scary stuff, but if you do it, it's gonna come back to haunt you. You know, personally, I don't understand why people find it very difficult to say no or to just decline. Probably because, I'm very upfront myself. But to be honest with you, ghosting is very prevalent, and job applicants and employers are all getting victimized by it. So I know that this is probably not going to be an easy topic to grasp. Probably some of you can be triggered or can trigger some very painful memories from experience in the past. But we will have someone to get our discussion going today who's probably been on the giving and the receiving end of ghosting as well. Workbank's own HR manager, Christian Rodriguez.
Thank you, Tanya, and good afternoon to all our viewers again. So, welcome to our Think Tank Halloween Special Edition, okay? So, what is special about our episode today? Bukod sa mas matagal yung, makikita mukha ko ngayon kasi before, mabilis lang no? So, syempre, malapit na ang Halloween. Ilang araw na lang, All Souls Day na. Ang i-discuss natin ngayon ay isa sa mga kinatatakutan ng mga employers and of course, ng mga job applicants, which is ghosting. So please let us know, on the comment section if this is something that you've done to employers who want to interview or hire you. Okay? Promise, hindi kami judgmental dito. Okay? So, start. So, ano nga ba ang ghosting? No? So, ghosting is the practice of ending a personal relationship with someone all of a sudden and without any explanation. So you are withdrawing from all communication from that person. No? As urban legends go, the term ghosting was kind of invented by a millennial writer and cartoonist from New York named Hannah Vanderpool way back in 2014. So who remembers noticing the problem without being able to, put words to it? So before kasi, diba, dates were disappearing into thin air without calling back. No explanations, no excuses. So she needed a way to talk about it. And she produced a video called Ghoster's Paradise and identified ghosting as a major problem in the dating scene. And hindi lang yan sa dating nangyayari, no? Sa recruitment, nangyayari din ang ghosting. And that's what we will focus on in this discussion. So first, let's talk about ghosting job hunters, no? So kailan nga ba madalas umaatake yung mga ghosting job seekers? So first is during job interview stage. Yan. So this is where ghosting happens most of the time. Madalas to nangyayari, no? Yung frustration level dito ng employer medyo konti lang kasi madalas naman if a recruiter schedules an interview, may kasabay pang iba yan eh, di ba? I mean, candidates, they have a lot of reasons and sometimes excuses kung bakit hindi sila nagsasabi na hindi sila makapupunta sa interview. Next is after accepting the job offer. Meron nilabas na report last year, yung isang online platform na, where they said that 65% of companies, they claim that they had candidates accept their offers, but they did not show up on the first day of work. I mean, this is very frustrating that they had candidates accept their offers, pero hindi tumano. Kasi nga, napaka-frustrating ito, especially for the hiring manager. Because after exhausting all their resources and efforts, bigla na lang, alam mo, MIA, missing in action na kagad si newly hired candidate without any notices prior to that. So, if you are the hiring manager, hindi ba iinit ulo mo doon? Siyempre, iinit ulo mo doon, di ba? But, you cannot do anything kasi, but just to go back to the drawing board and look for people again that will fill the spot. No? Last is, of course, ghosting, even after you started your work na. So, personally, I experienced this a lot of times. No? I remember a friend of mine got hired in our company. So, after reporting to work, day one, hindi na siya pumasok ulit. Galing, di ba? Friend ko pa yon, tropa ko pa yon. So, good job naman talaga yung ginawa niyang yon. Kaya sobrang after that, medyo nainis na rin naman ako. No? Another one was, after getting her first salary, I remember meron kami employee before, na after he got her first salary, she never showed up to work anymore. Ni ha, ni ho, wala. Narinig sa kanya. So again, when does ghosting jobs seekers strike? Number one, during the job interview stage. Number two, after accepting the job offer. And last, of course, even after they already started their work. No? So now, let's talk about why ghosting is common nga ba, no? I mean, everyone knows that if the economy is flowing, of course, job opportunities are very abundant, no? So job seekers, they can decide if they really want to grab your offer or stay in their current company dahil they were given counter offers. Eh. So next, it says here, companies do it all the time. So I can do it to them too. Let's admit, no, a lot of companies out there, they do this. We really do not give feedback to applicants. Kahit nasa interview, sinabi natin sa kanya, mata sa mata, na we will call them for the results, regardless kung pumasa sila or hindi. So for some, job seekers who experience okay lang mang-ghost sa kanila, okay lang mang-ghost dahil ginawa din naman sa kanila yon, di ba? So, now, next, third is some people, they don't like engaging themselves in conflict. Alam nyo, there are individuals, no, who choose to just ignore and stay silent. And they move on. Kasi why? They do not want to converse anymore with the recruiters. And they don't want to answer, they don't want to answer questions anymore na bakit sila hindi natutuloy, no? Why they don't want to continue their application or employment anymore. So, dahil wala naman magagawa si, recruiter na maaapektuhan directly si candidate, which leads us now to the last. Yan. We now have an internet culture of hiding behind alternative personas. So, being online, it has positive and negative effects, okay? Sadly, internet promoted a culture wherein you can do whatever you want behind a different persona or a face. Iniisip kasi nila na, alam mo yun, sabi or mag-notify. Kasi ano ba pwede mangyari? I mean, magagalit lang naman sila, di ba? I mean, that's true. And this is very prevalent in social media, especially sa Facebook. No? So, how do you detect potential ghosting job seekers? Syempre, you have to check. Are they responsive? No? If they're not replying to any SMS or emails, or it takes them, unusually longer time to respond, it may indicate that they are a potential ghoster. So next, hold on. So next is, of course, they are quick to change answers. For example, the last time that you talk, sabi niya, he's okay with the salary, but days after, tinext ka niya asking for a higher pay. I mean, most likely that this person ghosts you. Okay, umasa ka, mangyayari yan. Kung hindi niya makakuha yung hinihingi niyang salary, sa mga new hires naman, di ba, if you see that sa first week pa lang, they're not engaging, number one, hindi sila nakikisalamuha sa mga colleagues niya, sa mga teammates niya. Tapos, laging absent, huwag ka na magtaka din kung bigla na lang yan mawala na parang bula, di ba? So, how do we detect potential ghosting job seekers? Check if they are responsive, pabago-bago ng isip, and kung okay ba yung new hire during and after onboarding. Okay? So, all right. So, at this point, hold on. Okay, so at this point, I would like to introduce to you now, guys, our panelists for today to give us their take on ghosting. So our first guest was a managing director at a headhunting agency and is now in the midst of setting up her own business while taking up major in Asian Institute of Management. So let us all welcome Ms. Amy Ojerio.
Thank you. Yeah. Hello. Thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Hi, Amy. And we'd also like to introduce our next guest. We have the HR manager of Zark's Food Ventures Corporation. Let's say hello to Felix Ganchoki.
Hi, Tanya. Hi, guys. Christian, thanks for having me over.
Hello. All right. Thank you. Hello, guys, and welcome to the show. So basically, we are going to be talking about some of your ghosting stories. Let's hear it from you guys. What could be or what was your most horrifying ghosting story that you have experienced in the past? Amy, do you have any kaya that you can remember?
Sure. There wasn't really anything horrifying. But the usual cannot be reached. You tried multiple numbers that they have given to you. You've already reached out to them through multiple channels like chat, email, and then suddenly you don't get anything. So yes, it becomes frustrating. However, I think, like what we say, like what they used to say in showbiz, the show must go on. So we've actually just made adjustments around it. So after like a few follow-ups, we just send out a closure note that we assume that you are no longer pursuing your application, because like in a relationship, diba, parang you just want to, if they don't want to give you closure, okay, I'm gonna give you closure just for my peace of mind, something like that.
True.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it I know happens both ways, right? There are when in my younger years, I have had experience that, and I learned from it, so I just go ahead and tell recruiters that, hey, I'm not gonna follow up. Just so, I mean, to lower my expectations. That's the reality, and I just got around it, and yeah. So it is frustrating, and but I there is a way to manage it such that you don't get frustrated anymore later on.
all right. Well, that's a very good story, but I think it's also something that's common, especially if you're a recruiter. Parang hindi ka mawawala ng ganong story on a yearly or on a monthly basis. What about you, Felix? Do you have any story that you would like to share with us?
I think this was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. What happened was we were ramping up for hiring for two branches because we were expanding. This was the time that we were expanding Zark's Burgers in different cities. So we were surprised like the day before or like 2 days before we had like 120 people confirming for initial interview. As a
Mm-hmm.
recruiter, of course, that's good news for you because that means you have, a lot of options. You can sift through so many candidates, and everyone confirmed for like 100 plus people confirmed. So we were preparing. We even had multiple examinations prepared for them. The space for the store, because back then the office was remote, so we would have people test for their interview and their initial exams. It'll happen in the main branch. So yeah, I think long story short, 30 people or like 25 people out of a good 100 plus people came in, and most of them were either telling us of some sort of family emergency out of nowhere. So, and maswerte ka pa if you have like a message from these guys. Some of the applicants just didn't show up at all. So it was really frustrating because, well, you have a store to open and you have to fill up those positions, and at the same time you're excited because you're giving people opportunities to get a job, right?
True. Yeah.
So very very frustrating on the part of recruitment. And yeah, I guess that's one of those very very like major ghost stories that we've experienced in our department.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Felix. What about you, Christian naman? Do you have anything to share?
Oo, syempre naman. So for me, there was this time, actually dito na sa Workbank yan, no? I was looking for an HR assistant. So usual hiring process, I mean, she signed the job offer, then 2 weeks have passed. First day na niya, I think it was around 8 a.m. when I sent her an SMS. And by 9 a.m., I was calling her because she was not replying to my text messages. So in short, hindi ever siya nagparamdam on that day. And unfortunately for that week, I think I really did everything para balikan yung candidate pool ko and to make sure na meron akong makuha na HR assistant during that time. Meron pa ako isa, I think I already mentioned to kanina, no? Yun nga, yung refer ko yung friend ko mismo dito din sa Workbank. And after his first, I'm sure you know him. After his first day, imagine nilibre ko pa ng lunch yun. Hindi na siya pumasok ulit. So nag-message na lang siya sa akin after a week. So those are just one or two of my ghosting stories. Actually, marami pa. Pero syempre, we don't have much time for that because this is the time for our panelists. So yeah, that's it.
Kala ko mag-name drop ka pa eh. Anyway, all right. All right. Okay. So thank you very much, guys, for sharing those stories. Now, we also have talked to some job hunters who believe na it's okay to ghost employers, especially kapag they weren't given a very good candidate experience. So I'd like to walk you through those statements or stories, and then maybe we can discuss them individually. So the first one, I'll read it out. So a recruiter called me and asked me to go to an interview, and later that day, to an interview later that day, knowing that I was at work. But when I asked for another schedule, she said that there was no schedule. So I said yes, but I didn't show up. So basically, the candidate felt slighted that the recruiter was not willing to compromise on the new schedule, I guess. Plus, it was also like very short notice. So, Amy, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, okay. I'm not on mute na, no? All right.
Yes.
Well, on the candidate side, I think from practice, what we really do is give them options, right? I mean, you want the candidate, you also have to adjust. And remember, we always tell ourselves, we're not the only option for the candidate too. So if we really want we have to meet halfway somehow. So I understand the frustration on the candidate's side, but also, what's not good about it is that I know it's not unique, right, to our culture. You pleasing others, it's an Asian, I think it's an Asian trait. And sometimes it's because it's very convenient, the trait of pleasing others is very high in our culture, but it can really lead to unprofessional behavior, because out of convenience, the person says yes to get rid of the other person, right? Okay, I'm just gonna say yes, because I don't want to argue, I don't want to debate on this. And plus, it doesn't help that we're again a non-confrontational culture also. And that's what happens when you're non-confrontational and lazy to negotiate. So there's non-confrontational, and there's also, you want to go through the convenient route. So, but of course, don't get me wrong. It's probably the way we were raised, and it could differ. At least for me, when I was growing up, we were raised to respect parents, respect elders, do not talk back, right? And so it part of that molded the way we, or at least influenced the way we communicate with others. So we can't speak out our thoughts. It's not okay to be assertive. It can be taken as being very aggressive. So it's not part of the culture, but I feel that it's changing a little. I think we just have to remind people that at the onset with our job seekers, hey, it's okay to be honest. I want you to be honest. So it's creating that culture, a non-threatening environment that you can negotiate, because I want you to meet your clients. I mean, I want you to meet our clients. I want you to go through the interview. So it's initiating that non-threatening environment. Hopefully, that will allow a more honest communication. So go ahead, if you're not comfortable with this, what's really important is that I give you a schedule that can work for both of you and the hiring manager. So yeah, just giving my thoughts, I guess principles behind why I think people are non-confrontational or why they ghost others. Could be some because of our culture, the way we were brought up, and I guess, but it can change. Again, we have the power to to change that by setting that non-confrontational culture or feeling or setup in our conversations, initial conversations.
All right, all right. Thank you, Amy. That's actually a good point that you raised. And I think now that you have mentioned that, because earlier I was not sure why people are ghosting, but now that you've mentioned some of the probably reasons behind it happening, then I can already, kumbaga parang I can already have like a clearer idea of why it's happening. But like you said, it's something that can change. So that's a very good tip that you have given us today. The next statement, or the next person said, I was 10 minutes early for my interview, but guess what? The HR guy made me wait 40 minutes, and then after the interview, he asked me to stay and try to wait for the hiring manager. I waited more than an hour only to be told that the hiring manager wasn't free. So when they called and texted me for the next interview, I didn't bother replying anymore. I also told my friends not to apply there. So for this story, Felix, can you maybe give us what any advice, particularly for the employer who has made the candidate wait and the job hunter as well in that scenario?
I guess for the employer, what you're supposed to do, and this sounds like a no-brainer for others, but a lot of people would overlook this. It's basically time management. That's
Mm-hmm.
one. You got to manage your time in terms of making sure that a certain amount of time is allotted for your applicants. Okay. It's not just one interview. For sure, you're about to do like 10 or like 20 in a day. So you have to allot that time. And then you have to talk to the hiring manager or whoever's looking for the applicant for their department. You have to make sure that they are pretty much free and will be on time on the certain date. Like I'm not gonna pretend like we don't experience that at work as well. We did that too. We had gone through several situations like that. But as you go along and you improve your systems, what you're going to do is you definitely need to at least inform people way ahead so that doesn't occur, doesn't happen to your applicants. Because syempre, when the applicant comes through your office, it'll be that impression of the company
Mm-hmm.
if you guys have everything together as a company. So very ano yun, very important yon. For the applicant or the job hunter, I guess, yeah, just like what Amy said, I totally agree. I think it's in Filipino culture where people tend to be really passive. So it's the easiest route, really, with what we do. I'm not gonna reply, or I don't need to message that person.
Mm-hmm.
We avoid conflict because that's the first option to avoid conflict. And I mean, nothing wrong with that. I mean, who wants conflict anyway? However, when you tell somebody that their experience is not good when it comes to like their job application experience with you guys, you're not being bastos naman or being too aggressive or upfront. It's just that you're giving feedback. So you got to be upfront, really. If you think that that company is wasting your time and you don't want that to happen anymore, then tell them off. Like, just tell them like, okay, in a very respectful manner, of course, but tell them that, hey, I waited for an hour and you're telling me that the manager wasn't around. It would have been better if, you could have informed me ahead. We could have rescheduled options, actually. Because again, as a job hunter, I understand you don't want to waste your time on things, but such things also should be heard by the companies that are looking for applicants. They should get those feedbacks so that they can improve their systems. Because if you don't say anything, then the cycle's just gonna keep on going because there's no improvement, there's no feedback, there's no nothing really. So that's what I think about that situation.
All right. That's actually very well said. And I hope we have employers or job hunters who are watching us right now who are also getting these points from both Felix and Amy and Christian, because those are very good points to remember, especially when you are in the job application process. It's not something that you can avoid. It happens really talaga na there might be some time management issues on the part of the employer, or maybe the candidate was not happy with the experiences, so they will have to say things na hindi maganda about the company. But then again, at the end of the day, I guess you just have to be professional, no, in dealing with people, because this is also a professional setting when you're applying for a job. And so I think we have like another story. This one naman, maybe we can have Christian give us his thoughts about it. I needed a job badly, sabi ng tao. And then after a series of successful interviews, the company made me wait for 2 months. Wow, medyo matagal. And then when they eventually called me for the job offer, I didn't reply anymore. Well, anong masasabi mo kaya dito, Christian? What or why would you make an applicant wait for months as a recruiter or as an employer? Or maybe we can have Amy again to just throw in her 2 cents while I think Christian is having some technical difficulties ata.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was gonna volunteer. I wanted to also share my thoughts.
Yes.
2 months, really, it's not good. I've been in the BPO for a little more than a decade, and this is something that we really impose on our team in operations among our frontliners. You set level expectations. I think it's fair to give them a preview of how much time, what steps they'll go through. Again, it's all about candidate experience now because people have options, right? So, you may be a really good brand, but how can you be a good brand if you're not good with people, right? At least at the onset.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's also, so I guess my point there is how you treat your candidates in the onset will really sever or hurt your branding also. So I guess my other point there is expect that the candidate won't reply anymore. That I think that's just fair. That's a fair reaction. You get what you give. And
True,
so
yeah.
it's just be professional. You're the one who needs the employee. It's a two-way thing. Candidates are not all desperate to go to your company. Like I said, they have
Mhm.
options, so be nice. It's just a matter of, again, being professional, set level expectations. And there's technology, right? Things can be high touch now, even without having to just pick up the phone and go and call the candidate. You can program your email perhaps to send automatic messages that we
Mhm.
are it's taking a while for us to process so and so, or the hiring manager is suddenly not available. Come on, those are just templates, right? Which
Yes.
you can create and nicely send out and program. You maximize technology to give that best candidate experience. So that even if it took 2 months, you can expect that person would wait alongside other candidates. That's my take.
Thank you, Amy. Actually, that's a good thing that you brought up then, because I'll be very honest. In Workbank, we've done recruitment, and there were instances that we normally would process an applicant or a candidate longer than a month. Minsan, probably because we're organizing the budget, or we're well, it's probably not a good thing to say, but we're probably pursuing another applicant, but we're just trying to pull them, or something just happened. And yeah, I really agree with what you said. Tama yung setting of expectations talaga lang na we're working on something, or you tell the candidate na at least even using a template na, hey, we're still working on your application, 'di ba, yung mga ganun, para hindi naman sila parang nangangapa na lang or naghihintay, or hindi nila alam kung naghihintay pa sila over something, or kung dapat na silang mag-move on. So yeah, that's actually a good point that you have raised. Maybe I could adapt that too, or maybe practice that more when I do recruitment at work. I think we have other questions, or no, actually it's a question for both of you, Na and Felix. Because we mentioned earlier na these people are doing this because, or are ghosting employers or recruiters because they didn't have a very good candidate experience. So my question now is, are there any repercussions to the applicants or the employees who ghost their recruiters or employers? Maybe we can have Felix answer that muna.
Okay. Not to threaten our job hunters out there, but like example for Zark's Burgers, we have records of those who we've invited, message for interviews and stuff. We have a directory for that. So imagine the bigger corporations that are hiring people, they definitely have more information. on who showed up, who passed. The whole even Workbank has that process where you can see the progress of hiring, right? So like as a job hunter, a lot of people would think that I'm not going to show up. I don't need to reply to them. I can just always, send a new application in the future. Bear in mind that, yeah, although you can do that, but there's a probable chance that the company has already had an impression that, well, you flake.
Mhm.
So if you're a flaker, you can't blame the management or the HR department or whoever's hiring you for thinking that if you have that kind of attitude when it comes to interviews, what more with like deadlines, attendance? It's already a bad impression off the bat. Um, there's nothing wrong with sending a text message stating that you're not interested anymore, job offer's not good, maybe we can negotiate, or maybe we can reschedule because a situation happened, unforeseen circumstances happened at the house, or you can't leave the workplace that you're currently working at. Uh, yeah, you just tell them up front because again, there's always going to be an impression or a record for that. For example, um, we were hiring a bunch of applicants before the pandemic, right? And a lot of people have been messaged for an interview. Okay, and most of them said yes, but most of them also did not show up again. I think it's a common situation for all recruitment officers or like HR
Mhm.
employees practitioners. Um, so they don't reply, right? So they don't reply. They don't reschedule. They don't warn. Nothing. And then, unfortunately, pandemic hits us, and everyone's starting to look for jobs. Now, all our these same people have been messaging us for the same position if it was still open, and of course, I saved everything. I save everything on the phone, so
Mhm.
I know exactly who was the one who showed up and doesn't. So imagine that. Like, who would have thought? Like the tables have turned that this time around, it's you that are actually looking for that job, looking for a new start because either your old workplace closed or you guys had a recession or
Mhm.
something like that. But long story short, you can never tell. You know, life's funny like that. So don't burn bridges. Just communicate and let them know that either you're not interested, you can't show up. Just be upfront because people are always, especially now, everything can be saved. Everything can be. There's a receipt. Everybody can be called out. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Amy, question: do you have any processes or any regulations in your former company or in your new business now that you're putting up about applicants or employees who are ghosting?
Yes. I think for new hires, um, if you don't show up on the first day, then you're not, I think, legally bound. But I think if you appear on the first day, that's when uh the counter starts. Yung parang ganun na you're
Oh.
legally bound to the company. And that's what I learned when I was in the BPO. As to, sorry, the process, no.
Mm-hmm.
Syempre, there's the oh my gosh, I forget the HR term. Perhaps you guys can help me. The
Block or
no show cause, no show cause. So you're gonna be called by HR. You're gonna be sent a letter. Hey, and then of course there's the AWOL. There's
mm-hmm.
performance management. In the aspect of performance management, you will be obviously given a written notice, and then if let's say you don't reply, then the company will call you several times, after which then you may be sent, I think, a letter, but of course a let go letter, but of course it will go through a process kasi nga our labor laws are very pro labor, which is not a bad thing, but
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes I think it's just too extreme. Na it encourages bad behavior. Yeah, you can put those processes in place. So day one, if they show up and then they disappear on day two, definitely you can go after them. But if they don't appear on day one, then give them a call. The usual recruiting thing, as though they're not onboarding yet. And then performance management, disciplinary actions. Of course, there will be several hearings. But again, at the end of the day, like what Felix said, right? You can skirt around the law, the process, because it's really pro labor. However, we live in a very small world, and what goes around comes around. Don't burn bridges, because one day you will have to pay your dues. Yeah, it will definitely catch up on you. So yeah, put processes in place. Just go through it. Just go through it. But I think again, we go back to why creating a culture that encourages openness, open communication. Open communication, provide a non-threatening situation. I mean, especially when, our experience in the BPO, we couldn't afford to just be nonchalant about the issues, or we could not we can't keep our, a blind eye on attrition or ghosting, diba? Ghosting employees. We have to address that. And one way of addressing that problem is to create a wonderful culture for the employees, open communication, so that if there are issues with supervisors, as we know, people ghost, or people leave company because of usually the direct supervisor, is what I learned, at least in the BPO. Yeah, so it's creating that culture that, hey, you can come to you can speak to HR, or you can speak to your peers about your frustration, to control the ghosting, right? More permanently.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that, Amy. So I think we all are in agreement that ghosting is an unacceptable behavior. And I'd like to hear from you, Christian. Maybe if you have any advice for job seekers or employees who ghost their companies.
All right. So for me, Tanya, no, again, honesty is always the best policy. Like, I mean, this is for both candidates and employers. I mean, always remember, guys, recruitment, it's still a business transaction. No, you have to maintain your company's integrity. So that is very important. Syempre, avoid applying to jobs that are least of your interest. Para sa huli, hindi ka magsisi. If you need to decline the job offer or the interview, just send a text message or SMS or reply to the email. I mean, we do not, just like what Amy mentioned kanina, no? We don't want to burn bridges kasi malay mo, di ba, may makita kang interesting na position dun sa company nila in the future, and you can tell, no? There's always a chance that you might work with people or with a person that you ghosted in the future. And that's what you don't want to happen. You don't want to be put in that awkward position na, di ba, you attended the first interview, and then all of a sudden yung HR na kaharap mo, siya pala yung ginos mo do sa previous company na in-applyan mo. And that's happening, no? That's happening. Kasi again, guys, remember, HR practitioners, we use or applicant tracking system, wherein we can definitely red flag those candidates or those job seekers who have ghosted, or kahit yung medyo may, alam mo na, may konting attitude. So yun, nilalagyan natin ng red flag yun. And the HR community is not that big. I mean, it's a small community wherein all HR practitioners are discussing inside that community. That's why it's very important. Number one, do not burn bridges, just like what sabi ni Amy kanina. And make sure that you inform the employer, just like what Felix mentioned kanina. Walang masama. Just send a text message. Just really have to be honest that you don't plan to push through with your application anymore.
All right. Okay. So, well, I guess that's enough information or enough tips that we have received from you guys, no, for job hunters who goes. Now, we'll move on to the next couple of stories naman coming from employers, or no, from job applicants na ginost ng mga employers. So, this is the other side of the coin. So, yung mga employers or yung mga companies na nag-ghost. Though, we've touched up on them a couple of slides ago, but maybe we can go into further details now because we've talked to several job applicants naman who have experienced ghosting from employers. Actually, if you are to conduct, or based on a survey I think that was done just recently, about 9 out of 10 people have said na nakapag or nag-ghost sila ng mga employers or ng mga companies na in-applyan nila. So I'll walk you through some of the statements and then maybe we can discuss and get your advice na rin on some of those. So the first one, I've made so many applications but none of the companies replied to me. Wow, ang saklap naman. So Felix, can you please tell us or enlighten us why would an applicant not get or rarely get feedback from companies on our job applications?
I think it's very prevalent in the industry. As much as it's not it's not something that we'd advise, but it happens. Like you'd notice, like you apply for, let's say, a huge conglomerate fuel company, let's just say. When you use other services and stuff, you can see how many applicants are actually in that applying, and you'd be surprised that the HR department is sifting through 2,000 applications, 3,000 applications, going through everything. Okay, sana if you have like a software or like a system of some sort that'll will be one click away from seeing whether that person is eligible for the position or not. But for the most part, a lot of companies would go through them manually, like get the CV and read through everything. I think the root cause of not getting a reply is specifically that. Some of the HR departments are very overworked when it comes to sifting through the resume. So what happens is they just inform those who are pretty much eligible for the position. Although I'm not saying, again, that's a good thing, but it's also the reality of the situation. I think there are companies, however, that are very considerate when it comes to that. What they do is when you look at the website or their job posting, if you're shortlisted or something to that same effect, where if you are shortlisted or you are eligible, you will get a message from the company. If not, then that's easily understood. I think for the most part, that's the only solution that I have in mind, unless you have like a auto reply of some sort on the email where you inform applicants where they didn't pass. But for the most part, I think just like what Amy said earlier, it's all about managing expectations. Like upfront, you tell them, okay, we've received your CV. Thank you very much for having interest in applying for our company. However, due to the number of applications that we receive on a daily basis, what we can do is, if ever you're eligible or shortlisted for the job, you'll get a reply from us. I think that's the best halfway system, unless there's some sort of technology that I don't know of that you can auto reply people like, you're not accepted.
Actually, Workbank does. May
Yeah.
I promote Workbank? Meron, actually, to just add to what you just said, though, we have that kind of technology. Hello, guys. If you want to check us out or check out the website, where you can easily screen out, at least for the first few requirements of your application, and then you can also update their status and send them notifications as they move along. So that's actually a good thing that you mentioned, because that's also something that's going to be very helpful to other recruiters there who find it difficult to update their candidates, or just to let them know whether they made it through the the screening selection or not. But thank you for that. Maybe we can have Amy give her inputs naman on the next story or statement. So according to this person, someone from LinkedIn, a recruiter in LinkedIn, pursued him or her to apply to a job post. So I submitted my resume and then I never heard from them again. So wow, okay. So parang pinaasa.
Yeah. So in an economy that's very integrated, digitally integrated na rin sabihin natin, right? Branding is so important. So I think it works both ways. If the candidate shows unprofessionalism towards um, the company, then they will get a bad rep, right? Similarly, that company who ghosted the applicant will will cause damage to branding and image of the company that they work for. Again, we cannot impose on candidates a behavior we ourselves cannot follow. And like I said, in a very integrated society, people will know. So you will, and it's just a Facebook post away or a Twitter post comment away, and it can really destroy your brand. There's a whole lot of things I can talk about branding, but of course that's not the topic now. Yeah, but yeah, don't impose on things that you yourself, diba? You have to walk the talk.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I agree to that. Maybe because we're running out of time, we can have the last story or statement maybe answered by Christian. So the person says, I had great interviews up to the head of the company. I felt it. The job was mine. But I didn't hear from the company anymore. And when I followed up, radio silence. It's like I never existed. So parang siya yung ghost. So Christian, let's get your take on this one.
Okay, so I want to go back to what I mentioned kanina, no. Maybe the hiring manager or head of the company had a change in their priorities. Like baka after review, nakita nila, no, they saw that they don't really need the position yet. I mean, during hiring, pwede rin na there's an influx of referrals or application. It's always possible. So I mentioned referrals, no? You know naman na referrals, they are prioritized more by recruiters. So kahit na you had great conversation with everyone you talked to during the entire recruitment journey, or yun nga, no, with the head of the company, they might be prioritizing a referral, di ba? So, pwede din na timing, di ba? Like, yung recruiter ng company, for example, no longer connected to the company, kaya wala ka nang narinig from them. And if this happens to you, guys, please do not take it personally. I mean, huwag kayong mapanghinaan ng loob. If you really want to work on that company, you have to make sure that you make a proper follow-up through proper communication channels. And syempre, again, if you're gonna follow up on something, you really have to be polite and courteous. Kasi nga, hindi mo naman alam talaga what's really happening on the other side. So yeah, that's what I guess that's what he or this guy should do next time.
All right, thank you very much. So those are very good inputs that you guys have shared, and I hope everyone who's watching us today were able to, pick up these points and hopefully apply them on their next job applications. Actually, meron din tayong na-receive na isang question. Maybe you guys can each, throw in your 2 cents on it. According to Jade Flora, if a candidate had a real emergency causing him or her to accidentally ghost the recruiter, and then after a while they ask to be reconsidered kasi legit naman siguro yung reason, will that affect your siguro as an employer, will that affect your impression of the candidate, and would you still consider the candidate again? Maybe we can start with you again, Christian.
Okay, so for me, no, I think yung what the candidate should do is make sure na again right now we are all digital, everything's online. It's very easy for you to send notification. It's very easy for everyone to send communication, especially dun sa employer. That's why it's very important na regardless of the reason, I guess, kahit na siguro you got involved in an accident or you got sick for a very long time, that's the reason why hindi ka nga makapag-respond. Make sure na as soon as you can, you inform kagad the employer.
All right, thank you. What about you, Felix? Would you consider the
Um,
candidate again?
yeah, I would really, to be honest. Although you've already marked that in your head that the person did not show up the first time around. But sometimes the recruiters, HR practitioners, you can't blame us for hearing all of the best stories, the best excuses of not showing up for the interview. You can't blame us. We're pretty much sometimes you're desensitized, although that's not a good thing, but you're sort of desensitized already. You've heard the best stories out there. But for the most part, what I learned from, especially from Zark, personally, my boss, everybody deserves a chance. You know what I mean? So give them a chance. Who knows? Maybe, it was actually true. They were in an accident and, they couldn't show up unless, but however, I also agree with Christian's point. Like, it's 2020 now. Technology is around. So a small chat or like, text would really work. Now, if it was something very serious, then of course we'll totally understand that you can't message or you're unconscious or whatever for whatever reason. But for the most part, diba, you'd always at least just a small message lang na parang, sir, unfortunately, I ran to an accident earlier, had to settle something with the police, blah blah blah. So yeah, that's gonna take you what? Not even a minute to compose that message. So there's not really any excuse whatsoever for not informing the company or the people who are actually looking for employees. And yeah, I mean, with social media and all, who knows, maybe the companies, the HR department's also looking through your social media accounts just to check if you're actually, you know, actually saying something that's true.
All right, well, thank you for that. And maybe Amy?
Oh, sure. So two things: be kind and be open to giving the other person a second chance. However, I think we always have to be discerning because it's a waste of time. It's a
Mm,
waste of time entertaining people who can and are is dishonest. So I think you can discern that from, and it's true. It's not like 1990 or 1980 where you really have to go to a PLDT phone and that's the only way to communicate. No, you knew
yes.
you had a final interview, and what is sending a message maybe after everything has like cooled off. um yeah, it's really just being responsible. I think we're not doubting that accidents happen, right? But we're trying to discern yung being responsible and being honest, because again, these situations could be how these behaviors can manifest later on in the job. So, in this very people job role as a recruiter, you really have to, yun nga it's easy to be desensitized when you're processing application but after application, no? But yeah, um, it's a service oriented role or business, so we have to consciously not we have to consciously remind ourselves not to be desensitized. And yeah, it takes, being kind is a choice, and it
Mm-hmm.
takes a few minutes, but also, make sure that you're discerning also, kasi maraming makakalusot na mali.
Yeah, that's true naman.
Yes. So just to add lang to what Felix mentioned kanina din, kasi he mentioned something about social media. No? Just like to inform everyone then, again, it's already 2020. Everyone has their own social media accounts. Guys, kung before, yung mga HR, whenever they do background check, they only do background checks sa mga previous employers,
Yes.
sa school. But now, we are also checking your digital footprint. Because we all, most of our time during our free time siguro, we spend most of our time sa social media. And doon, when we do digital footprint, nakikita namin how are your actions in the digital world. And it's also very important. Now again, it's 2020, everything is almost digital. So tulad nga ng sabi ni Amy kanina, you really just have to be very, very courteous and polite, regardless if you're attending the interview or you're doing the job offer. So yes, yun lang.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Very good points from everyone. Actually, I learned a lot from this discussion as a recruiter and as a job hunter. Well, not yet, or I don't know ever if I will have. Sorry, my boss. No, never. Will not be. All right. Oh, ano mga lumalabas sa bibig natin ngayon? Anyway, so I guess we can probably say thank you to everyone for all your tips and your advice to the applicants out there who are probably ghosting or habi na yung mga ghost. Hopefully this time naliwanagan na sila. And same thing with the employers. Hopefully they find, good ideas on how they can avoid that from happening in the future. Kasi nga sabi nyo, it's your brand image, it's, kumbaga yun yung impression ng mga tao sa company. So it's very important that, we uphold and we walk the talk nga kagaya sabi ni Amy kanina. So, thank you very much again, guys, for joining us today, Amy, Felix, and Christian. And before we say goodbye lang to everyone who is watching, let me also remind you that this session is saved on our Facebook page. So if you'd like to go back to it, especially if you dropped off halfway through it or you joined only halfway through it, then you can go back and rewatch this session along with the other Workbank sessions that we had in the past. If you'd like to share it with your friends too who might be interested or who might benefit from it, then please do so. And then we also have upcoming trainings on November 6th. That's next Friday. For DISC and introduction to DISC. On the 7th, we have Canva training naman for to create impactful and well-designed presentations. So we hope to see you there. But I guess we'll have to wrap up for today. Thank you again, guys, and thank you to everyone who has joined us to this session. We hope to see you in the next couple of weeks of Workbank ThinkTank. Bye-bye.